hedgehogs. It was so nice to see you in our last Zoom meeting. So I am filming this on Friday, so the day that it is really, really, really hot. But I thought I would share with you another book that I really enjoy. Now, I've had this book, actually brought it all the way from Australia. Now, this book is called Margaret and the Moon, How Margaret Hamilton Saved the First Lunar Landing. Now, I know that we've been doing space a lot in our home learning, so I thought we might keep going on our space theme with our books. So let's start reading. So this has the nice first page. Okay. So, Margaret Hamilton loved to solve problems. She came up with ideas no one had ever thought of before. Why were there only daddy long legs? Margaret had a solution. She would call them some mummy long legs too. Why didn't girls play basketball or baseball? Margaret had a solution. She would join the team herself. Why didn't more girls grow up to be doctors or scientists or anything else they wanted? Margaret had a solution. She would study hard in every subject at school. Reading, music, art, and especially mathematics. She learnt as much as she could about addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. Margaret's father was a poet and a philosopher who talked to her about the universe. She asked about how the planets moved, when the galaxies formed, and why the stars shone. It's a nice picture of Margaret and her dad. She gazed up at the night sky in wonder. Ooh, I wonder if you know, might be a bit hard to see. Wrong way, guys. But all around here, there's lots of what we call constellations. So what people have done is they have grouped the stars and they have named what the group of stars looks like. So lots of them are named after, they're named after star signs. So like Sagittarius, Pisces, Capricorn, lots and lots of them. So have a look at that one again, see if you can see some more. Margaret wondered, how many miles to the moon? It's 238,855 miles. But how many miles does it travel around the Earth? It says 1,423,000. It's a very long way. How fast does it go? 2,288 miles per hour. How big is it around? 6,783 miles. Margaret began solving harder and harder maths problems. It was fun working her way through the steps. So I know that a lot of us talked, when we were doing our Zoom chat, a lot of us said we really enjoyed maths too. So she liked solving around X and Y's in algebra. She liked measuring circles and triangles in geometry. She liked studying curves in calculus. So these are all things that you might learn in high school. And then she discovered computers. Ooh, what do we notice about these pictures? Can you see the computer in the picture? So looking at these things here, these giant things here, back in the day, long time ago, these were what computers looked like. So Margaret, the story is set in like the 1960s. So quite a while ago, but this is based on a true story. So Margaret could use the new invention, computers, to answer so many questions about the universe. She experimented with writing instructions, or code, that told the machine what to do. The code was called software, and Margaret called herself a software engineer. She started with something simple, asking the computer to add and subtract, multiply and divide. Margaret taught herself to write code that performed more and more complex tasks. She programmed computers to track airplanes through the clouds and even to predict the weather. She made them do things that they had never done before. So in 1964, Margaret got interested in an exciting project for NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration in America. Their scientists were working on the hardest problem humans had ever tried to solve, flying people to the moon. Could Margaret use computers to get the astronauts 238,855 miles there and 238,855 miles back? She convinced NASA's leaders to let her try. So quite a long way to the moon and back. Now Margaret thought of everything that could happen on a trip to the moon. Would the spacecraft go off course? Would it lose power? Would an astronaut make a mistake? Margaret wrote the code to tell the computers how to solve their problems. She worked her way through the steps just as she used to do when she did mathematics. Soon, Margaret became the director of software programming for NASA's Project Apollo, leading dozens of scientists. She helped Apollo 8 orbit the moon 10 times. She helped Apollo 9 connect 2 ships in space. And she helped Apollo 10 get within 9 miles of the moon's surface. So Margaret Hamilton, she helped with lots and lots and lots of projects of getting people and space rockets to the moon. With Apollo 11, NASA would finally be trying to put someone on the moon. Had Margaret thought of everything that could go wrong with a lunar landing? She kept her code again to make sure. The astronauts were depending on her. So this is how big her code was. So her code was all on these pieces of paper and she had to print them off to double check. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off. Apollo 11 rose with a blast of smoke and fire. Margaret followed along from the control room and the whole world watched on television. So just like this, people would gather together in groups because not everybody had a television in these days. So like lots of families would gather together to watch the rocket take off on TV. For 4 days, the spacecraft drew nearer to the moon. The lunar module, named the Eagle, slid off to make the landing. It says, yippee! But within minutes left to go, an astronaut entered a command and the master alarm buzzed. Whoops! The Eagle's computers started programming and performing too many tasks. It says, overload. Yikes! The control room panicked. The moon landing was in danger. Everyone looked at Margaret. Had she prepared for this too? Of course. Margaret's code made the computer ignore the extra tasks and focus on the landing. It brought the Eagle closer to the moon's surface, closer and closer, and touchdown. The Eagle has landed, announced the astronaut Neil Armstrong. The control room cheered. Margaret was a hero. Later that night, the Eagles hatched open and Margaret held her breath. Armstrong took the first steps on the moon. The whole world celebrated in front of their television. It says, "Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah, hooray, hooray, hoorah, hoorah." What are y'all? Hoorah. So like I said, everybody got together to watch this on their TV. Margaret walked out smiling. Her code had helped the astronauts get to the moon, and she knew that it would help them get them home safely. As always, she gazed at the night star in wonder. So this page is an author's note. So the author says just about how Margaret, who is born in the 1930s, she wondered why boys and girls weren't treated the same. So this is a whole nice thing from the author. And then, this is the best part. These are real photos. So this one, that's Margaret and her code. What else do we have? So Margaret in the command center in Apollo. So you have Margaret as a child and Margaret at MIT, so at a computer engineering school. Now, what do we think of that story? So let's have a think. We're going to use our same 5 ranking system. So 5 is love, love, loved it. 4 is like, yeah, it was pretty good. 3 was like, 2, not really. And 1 was like, no, I didn't like it. So have a bit of a think. Now, if you've been watching these stories, you'll probably know what I'm going to say. But have a think about what you like, if you like this story, and maybe what you liked about it before I share what I thought. Okay, well, I liked this story a 5. So like I said, that all of these books that I have, I pretty much will be giving them a 5 because they're my favorite books from home. But one of the reasons that I love this story is that it is a true story. So Margaret, which is Margaret Hamilton, as you said, she is a real person. And this is the real story of how she helped people to make sure that they landed on the moon. And I really like learning about, because I knew about the moon landing, and I'm sure lots of us knew that people had walked on the moon. But sometimes we don't know about all the people who help someone to make an achievement. So I thought that was really nice. I also really like this story because there isn't a lot of stories that show about female astronauts. So I really liked how this story was all about Margaret and about how Margaret, she studied really hard in school and she learned to do something that was really, really important, and I really liked that. Now, maybe in our Zoom chat, you can tell me what you thought of this story, because I know that lots of you have been watching, and I know that lots of you might have some thoughts. Now remember, if you don't know what our Zoom chat is or when we have it, you can email the Year 2 email, and myself will probably get back to you. Or if you have any problems with your home learning or anything else, you can still email the Year 2 email, and myself or Miss Sally or Miss Kelly will get back to you. Have a nice day.